It's coming from multiple directions now. It has been for a while, it has to be said. It's not the first time that Antony Blinken has spoken like that. At one point, not very long ago, he was talking about Israel's credit running out with the United States, something they had to be careful of, given the amount of support the United States has been given since the very beginning to Israel in this conflict. But when he says that a premium has to be put on civilian protection, it's clear that that is a message that the United States is trying to ram home at the moment. The United States accepts that Israel has been making the promises, but clearly the feeling is growing that there is that division, that gap that he just referred to between the intention, the expressed intention, and the reality on the ground. And the US is saying to Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, that something has to be done to narrow that gap. Much more has to be done on the ground to ensure that as the Israelis go forward with their operation in Gaza, that the civilians are given sufficient protection. At the same time as that, there's diplomatic pressure coming from the UN now, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres invoking Article 99, the first time that a Secretary General has done this for decades, which allows the Secretary General to demand a meeting of the Security Council. There's going to be a resolution put to it today by the United Arab Emirates, who's going to call for a humanitarian ceasefire, plus for all the hostages to be released. Has to be said, the United States hasn't given support for the idea of a ceasefire, something that Israel is resisting, of course, but the way things are changing, you can't be certain, but it's unlikely that the United States would go down that road. And at the same time as that, inside Israel, there is pressure going for the government to switch its emphasis away from just defeating Hamas and making sure that the hostages are brought back home. If you look behind me here, you can see a big white tent. This is a spontaneous, popular movement inside Israel to gather people in support of those who have hostages in Gaza at the moment. And if you can see behind me, there's a building over there. That's the Israeli Defense Forces headquarters in Israel. And the pressure is really being put on them to say, look, make sure that the priority is getting back the hostages home as soon as possible.
As you just made reference to, the UN has been sounding the alarm, meanwhile, about this humanitarian crisis in Gaza and just where civilians can find safety. Where do we stand in that regard?
Well, Martin Griffiths, the United Nations aid chief, has been talking about the situation becoming increasingly impossible, that it's actually not possible to carry out a meaningful humanitarian aid program inside Gaza at the moment. First of all, because aid is having difficulty getting in sufficient quantities. Since the new phase of this military operation began about a week ago now, the number of trucks getting in has been reduced from 200 to 100 a day. But that's not where the problem ends. The problem gets even worse when they get inside Gaza, because there's no security at all, there's complete confusion, convoys are being attacked, convoys are being looted, the warehouses that the United Nations are operating inside Gaza are being looted. They can't get to the north of the Gaza Strip. The situation, as Martin Griffiths said it, becoming increasingly impossible. At the same time, however, there are little glimmers of hope. The Israelis have suggested they may open a new entry point to Gaza at Kerem Shalom, not for lorries to go in there. They will still have to go in through the Rafah crossing point, but so that they can speed up and increase the volume of checks and inspections of lorries, so that the number going into Gaza can be increased. There is that little bit of hope. They're not there yet, but the promise is there. The Israelis are saying, look, the problem isn't us. It's a logistical problem. Sort it out yourselves. That's not the way the United Nations sees it.